Hi folks, welcome back to the Hoard. Beautiful, beautiful day today. Not a cloud in the sky. Gotta love it. Perfect day for playing with gas tanks. I have two gas tanks to do, the one for the 200X and the one for the ATC 70. The 200X gas tank, sorry for the wind, once I kind of rinsed it out and so forth, it really wasn't in that bad a shape. But what I did is I put the vinegar in it and I let it sit overnight, and that's about half the vinegar. It's about a gallon. And what I did was I filtered it, and that's what it looks like. How much could you clog up with that? I filtered it, and then I put it in the little Honda 70 gas tank, and this is my patent pending gas tank cleaner. Here are the nuts and bolts and all sloshing around in there. It is full of vinegar, and this is the vinegar I used. I don't know if you guys care. It came from Sam's. I see a lot of people use the apple cider vinegar. I don't think it makes much difference. This is part of the garage door. This was the torsion bar that kind of went across here before I had springs. Right. So that's the bearing that was on one side. These are some bearings from downstairs in the Hoard. I hooked it up. This is a rotisserie motor. This is an inner tube, and I just used an inner tube as a coupling. This is an old wheelbarrow my son picked up on the side of the road because the handles were broken off it. Down on Long Island, he brought it up. Somebody's been building go-karts. I gotta fix that. Somebody's been building go-karts and kind of using this as the back bucket, like T-bucket go-karts. So he brought it up and asked if I can use it. I said, oh yeah, I got just the thing for that. So I know exactly what I'm gonna do with that. Anyhow, so what I did is this gas tank had vinegar in it overnight, and I dumped the vinegar out of it, and I rinsed it a whole bunch of times with the garden hose, and shook it to get it as dry as I could. Then I used the heat gun and really got it dry as dry as I could. Then I put acetone in it, and it says throw a pint of acetone in it. That came from Walmart. It's about 12 bucks, I guess. So I put that in it and sloshed it around and really shook the hell out of it. And then I put some more in it, sloshed it around. Anyway, that's the acetone I got out of there. Then I put it in the sun and let it dry, and kept tilting it and moving it to make sure that it would dry uniformly. Then once I was sure it was dry, then I kept the heat gun away from the vapors and all, but I made sure it was dry, particularly in certain spots, like it's hard to dry around here. Then if you look in it, there's kind of a seam back here. So I really made sure it was dry within that. Then you put about a pint, or I don't know, what is there? 2 pints in a quart, a half a quart. I put about half this can in there and swished it around and swished it around and swished it around. Then some came out fairly easily. Then I had it upside down over here, and I had it dripping into here. And so I literally used about half of this. You guys could see that, I think, right? You can see where my finger is. So I used about half of it. I didn't wear gloves, and I should have, which, my bad. I'm always doing dumb things like that. So, a few suggestions. First of all, when you put hardware in these tanks and shake them about and so forth, I don't recommend using washers. Washers are harder to get out of there. I recommend nuts and bolts, particularly bolts, you know, the screw end of the nut and bolt, so to speak. Much easier to get out than washers or even nuts. Once again, I recommend bolts, but the nice thing about when you put nuts in there, they swish around pretty good. Secondly, even though I drained all the excess out of the tank here, what I'm doing is I'm kind of moving it around just to make sure the coating on the inside is uniform. So I don't know how important is that. I can't answer that question. That's just what I'm doing, trying to make sure it's good. And I got it on this box just in case anything drips, right? At this point, it's nowhere near ready to put gas into, but it's really not moving around anymore. It's done coating, and now it's just a matter of having it harden. I guess, I mean, it'll tell me on the can, but I think this takes rust tightly. Dry time is variable, and you got to make sure, do not put air in there, and don't heat it. So I don't know, on a beautiful day like this and out in the sun though, I could imagine she'll dry pretty good pretty quickly, right? Especially this tank is black, and that means it'll absorb a lot of the sun, a lot of the IR infrared radiation from the sun. There's also a nice breeze, which is kind of some of the fumes from around the opening. So I'm just kind of getting started on the little Honda 70 tank. I don't know, it's about 1-2 o'clock, so hopefully this cast tank will be more or less done for tomorrow. Just other dumb little things, like one of these lines was completely plugged, so it was good that I noticed that and cleaned it up. The other thing, when you take the petcock out of there, there's a pipe that goes into the petcock is 3 pieces, let me put it that way. You got the most external piece is a filter, okay, and it sticks up quite a ways, like 1.5 inches or so. Then there's a pipe that goes into the filter, and that pipe attaches to the bottom of the petcock. Okay, now what it does is that pipe is your normal run, and then when you flip this on to reserve, it takes gas from the bottom, which finishes draining out your tank. If one replaces the filter and everything else and puts it back together like OEM, you could have that. I'm just going to put the Pepcock back in there, and I just as soon have this thing so that I can completely drain the fuel out of it. It's not like I'm going to be out racing about in the desert and I need to run out of gas and flip over to reserve and bring it home on the last couple of inches in the gas tank, right? I don't run the bikes like that. And when I do get the reserve out of there, I'll be well cognizant of that, and I won't I don't have to worry about it. Once again, it's not something I do, being out in the desert. So I guess so anyway, get the petcock off. Make sure that if you got soldered on fuel lines, make sure they're all clear, because I could imagine if they're kind of clogged up and then you go through the whole seal process and then you go hook up your gas lines, you're not going to get any fuel. And these guys are bent, right? Which means it's going to be even harder to get a wire through them, and especially if the seal goes down the bend and kind of locks in with all that rust and all in there. I think one's going to have trouble. What I'm going to do is I'm probably going to put a couple of pieces of plastic coated wire in there, because this stuff really doesn't stick very well to plastic. According to all the videos I watched, right, it's not completely dry, but supposedly it doesn't stick well to plastic. And this plastic, it might have melted into it a little bit. So, so I'm gonna jam those wires in there, like 14 gauge electrical stuff. I don't know, there was some floating around here. Anyway, that's what I'm going to use to make sure they stay clear and I can continue to get fuel through them. Yeah, that was really the only problem. Lastly, this tank was really, really dirty, so I brought it over to the car wash and blasted it out with some high pressure, and that really made a difference. That really cleaned it up too before I started really with anything, because that tank was horrible. Alright folks, all my experience, I don't know, this might have been rambling. I might have to do this again. Anyway folks, I want to thank you all for watching and commenting and subscribing. Remember to keep your feet down, keep your head up, and please get out there and enjoy all your days. Bye now.